Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach when someone asks you for a favor, and you know deep down that saying, yes, is a mistake? That's the trap many of us fall into. We're conditioned to please, to be agreeable, but what if I told you that the real power lies in saying no? Imagine reclaiming your time, your energy, your life. It's not selfish, it's necessary. Think about it. Every time you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself. Have you ever considered what that does to your mental clarity and well-being? The weight of those unspoken boundaries can be crushing. But here's the kicker. Learning to say no can be an act of courage, a step toward a more authentic life. In a world that constantly demands our attention, learning to prioritize ourselves is revolutionary. So, how do we break free from the guilt that often accompanies our no? It's time to explore the subtle art of assertiveness. What if you could navigate these tricky conversations with confidence? Stick with me and let's unravel this together. Your journey to empowerment starts now. If you're looking for more emotional balance, clarity in decision-making, and want to learn how to handle life better, this content is for you. So go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because with each video you'll grow stronger on the inside and see life with greater wisdom. The importance of setting healthy boundaries. You know, as I navigate through life, I've come to realize that setting healthy boundaries is crucial for my well-being. It's not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to myself. Boundaries aren't just walls. They're guidelines that help me define what I'm comfortable with and what I'm not. They create a space where I can thrive without feeling overwhelmed or taken for granted. When I established my boundaries, I noticed a significant shift in my personal relationships and how I perceive my own needs. I used to think that boundaries would push people away, but in reality, they have drawn me closer to the right people. By communicating my limits, I've attracted relationships that respect my space and my needs. It's almost like a filter that helps me surround myself with supportive individuals who understand my priorities. This has not only improved my emotional health but has also allowed me to invest time and energy in the things that genuinely matter to me. Another thing I've learned is that boundaries aren't static. They can evolve over time. What worked for me last year may not work this year. Life changes and so do my needs. Being attuned to this fluidity helps me remain flexible while still protecting my core values. It's a balancing act, but one that's worth mastering. I've become more attuned to my feelings and reactions, which helps me adjust my boundaries as necessary without guilt or shame. Setting boundaries also empowers me to prioritize my time and energy more effectively. I've found that when I'm clear about what I can handle, I'm less likely to overcommit or stretch myself too thin. This leads to reduced stress and a more fulfilling life. I've learned to allocate my resources wisely, ensuring that I invest in activities and relationships that bring joy rather than drain me. It's a simple concept, yet remarkably transformative. Lastly, I've come to appreciate that setting boundaries is an act of self-care. It's about protecting my mental and emotional health. By defining what I can and cannot accept, I create a healthier environment for myself. It's not selfish, it's necessary. I've realized that when I take care of myself first, I'm in a better position to help others, which ultimately creates a more balanced and harmonious life. Recognizing your own needs and priorities. Recognizing my own needs and priorities has been a game changer in my life. It's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of daily responsibilities and forget what truly matters to me. I've had to take a step back and ask myself, what do I really need right now? This introspection has led me to a clearer understanding of my desires and goals, allowing me to align my actions with my values. For a long time, I prioritized what others wanted over my own needs. It felt easier to go along with the crowd, but I quickly learned that this only led to frustration and resentment. Identifying my own needs has become an act of self-respect. It's about acknowledging that I deserve to have my voice heard and my priorities met. This shift in perspective has made me more assertive in expressing what I want and need from my relationships and my life. In the process of recognizing my needs, I also had to confront some uncomfortable truths. I realized that some relationships were draining rather than uplifting. Identifying my needs was not just about saying what I wanted, but also about understanding what I could no longer tolerate. This realization has allowed me to make choices that serve me better, which often means letting go of toxic dynamics that don't align with my values. Moreover, it's essential to periodically reassess my priorities. What may have been important to me a few months ago might not hold the same weight today. Life is constantly evolving and so am I. By regularly checking in with myself, I can ensure that my priorities reflect my current state of mind and emotional health. This has led to a more authentic and fulfilling life, where I feel aligned with my true self. Lastly, understanding my own needs has enhanced my relationships with others. When I'm clear about what I want and need, I can communicate that effectively. This honesty fosters deeper connections and encourages those around me to also express their needs. It creates a cycle of mutual respect and understanding that enriches all my interactions. In essence, knowing myself better has allowed me to show up more fully in my relationships, leading to meaningful connections that truly enrich my life. The emotional impact of saying yes when you want to say no. The emotional turmoil of saying yes when I really wanted to say no. It's like a weight I carry around, and honestly, it's exhausting. I've found that every time I agree to something out of obligation or fear of disappointing someone, I'm essentially betraying myself. This conflict generates a swirl of emotions: guilt, resentment, and even anxiety. It's a cycle that I've been trying to break. When I say yes against my true feelings, I often end up feeling overwhelmed and stretched too thin. It's not just about the task at hand, it's about the emotional toll it takes on me. I find myself thinking, why did I agree to this? The frustration builds, and before long, it manifests in my mood and interactions with others. I've learned that when I don't honor my own feelings, I'm not just hurting myself. I'm also not showing up as my best self for others. This internal conflict can lead to a sense of disconnection from my own identity. I start to question what I genuinely want and need versus what I think I should provide for others. It's a slippery slope that can lead to burnout. Over time, I realized that saying yes when I meant no was not just about the immediate situation. It had a cumulative effect on my mental and emotional health. Each instance diminished my self-esteem and made me feel less authentic. To combat this, I've started to recognize the signs of when I'm about to overcommit. I've learned to pause and reflect before responding to requests. This moment of reflection allows me to weigh my feelings and priorities rather than react impulsively. Saying no has become a powerful tool for reclaiming my time and energy. It's liberating to know that I can choose what aligns with my life goals and emotional well-being. Acknowledging the emotional impact of saying yes when I wanted to say no has been a crucial step in my journey toward self-assertiveness. It's a reminder that my feelings are valid and deserve attention. By honoring my emotions and learning to communicate my boundaries, I'm gradually reshaping my relationships and, most importantly, my relationship with myself. This process is ongoing, but with each step, I feel more empowered and at peace. Techniques for communicating a no assertively. Communicating a no assertively has been one of the most empowering skills I've developed. There's a certain art to it that I've had to learn over time. It's not just about the word itself, it's about how I deliver it. When I first started practicing this, I often felt guilty or anxious, worried about how the other person would react. But I've come to understand that being clear and assertive is ultimately a form of respect, for both myself and the other person. One technique that has worked wonders for me is using I statements. Instead of saying, "You're asking too much of me," I'd say, "I can't take on that task right now." This shift in language focuses on my feelings and limits, rather than placing blame or creating defensiveness in the other person. It helps to convey my boundaries without sounding aggressive or confrontational, which is key to maintaining healthy relationships. Another effective technique is to keep my response concise but firm. I've learned that I don't owe anyone a lengthy explanation for my decision. A simple "I can't commit to that," or "that doesn't work for me right now," is sufficient. The more I practice this, the easier it becomes. It's liberating to know that I can assert myself without feeling the need to justify every decision I make. This clarity not only helps me, but it also sets a precedent for how others should respect my boundaries. Additionally, practicing active listening has enhanced my ability to communicate a no. When I truly listen to the other person's request, it allows me to respond more thoughtfully. I've found that acknowledging their feelings first, saying something like, "I understand this is important to you," shows that I respect their needs, even if my answer is still a no. This approach fosters mutual respect and keeps the lines of communication open for future conversations. Lastly, I've learned to accept that saying no doesn't have to lead to conflict. It's okay to disagree, and it doesn't mean I'm being unkind or unhelpful. In fact, setting boundaries often leads to healthier dynamics in my relationships. The more I practice assertive communication, the easier it becomes. I'm still a work in progress, but every time I assert my needs, I feel a little more empowered and a lot more at peace. The difference between being kind and being submissive. In my journey of self-discovery, I've come to understand the fine line between kindness and submission. It's a distinction that has profound implications for how I navigate my relationships. For a long time, I equated being kind with always saying yes and putting others' needs before my own. I thought that being agreeable was the only way to maintain harmony, but I soon realized that this mindset often led to resentment and burnout. Being kind doesn't mean sacrificing my own needs or values. It's possible to be compassionate and still assert my boundaries. I've learned that true kindness comes from a place of self-respect. When I take care of my own. 7. How to handle social pressure and others' expectations. Navigating social pressure can be like walking a tightrope. On one side, you have your own desires and boundaries. On the other, you have the expectations of friends, family, and society at large. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the need to please others, especially when their opinions seem to weigh heavily on your choices. I often find myself caught in this tug-of-war, trying to balance what I want with what I think others expect of me. It's a constant negotiation that can leave you feeling drained. One thing I've learned is that social pressure often stems from a desire for acceptance. We all want to fit in, to be liked, and to feel valued. However, this desire can lead us to compromise our own boundaries. When I feel the pressure to conform, I remind myself that true acceptance comes from being authentic. The moment I prioritize my own needs over the expectations placed on me, I feel a sense of relief. It's almost liberating to acknowledge that not everyone will agree with my choices, and that's perfectly okay. It's helpful to recognize the sources of this pressure. Sometimes it's a well-meaning friend who insists you join a gathering, or a colleague who expects you to take on extra work. In these moments, taking a step back to evaluate the situation can provide clarity. Are their expectations reasonable? Do they align with my own values and priorities? By asking these questions, I can better understand whether to succumb to the pressure or stand firm in my decision. Learning to say no in the face of social pressure takes practice. I often visualize the scenario before it happens, preparing myself for potential pushback. This mental rehearsal gives me the confidence to respond assertively. When I do say no, I try to do so with kindness but also with firmness, ensuring that my message is clear. I've found that people often respect my boundaries when I communicate them effectively, which reinforces my belief in my own decisions. Finally, surrounding myself with supportive individuals has made a significant difference. When I have friends and family who respect my boundaries and encourage me to prioritize my own needs, it becomes easier to resist external pressures. Building a network of people who understand and value assertiveness can create a protective bubble that helps me navigate social expectations with greater ease. 8. The relationship between self-esteem and the ability to say no. Self-esteem plays a critical role in our ability to assert ourselves. When I have a healthy sense of self-worth, saying no feels less daunting. Conversely, when I'm feeling insecure or doubt my value, I often find myself acquiescing to others' demands, even when it goes against my better judgment. It's a cycle that can be hard to break, but understanding this connection has been enlightening for me. Building self-esteem involves recognizing my own worth and the validity of my feelings. I've realized that the more I appreciate myself, the more empowered I feel to set boundaries. This doesn't mean I become selfish. Rather, it's about acknowledging that my needs are just as important as anyone else's. Engaging in positive self-talk and celebrating small victories has helped me cultivate a stronger sense of self, making it easier to say no when necessary. In contrast, low self-esteem can lead to a fear of rejection or conflict. I've often found myself saying yes, to avoid disappointing others or to seek their approval. This behavior only reinforces negative feelings about myself, trapping me in a cycle of people-pleasing. By recognizing this pattern, I've started to challenge my beliefs about worthiness and acceptance, slowly shifting my mindset to one that values my own needs as much as those of others. Another important aspect is the role of self-care in building self-esteem. When I take time to care for myself, whether through exercise, hobbies, or relaxation, I feel more centered and confident. These practices remind me that I deserve to prioritize my own needs, which in turn strengthens my ability to assert myself. I've noticed that on days when I engage in self-care, I'm much more likely to say no without feeling guilty or anxious. Ultimately, fostering a healthy self-esteem isn't an overnight process, but it's a journey worth taking. Each time I assert myself and say no, I reinforce my sense of self-worth. It's a reminder that I am deserving of respect and my boundaries matter. As I continue to develop this aspect of myself, I find that my ability to navigate relationships becomes smoother, and I'm less inclined to be swayed by external pressures. 9. Self-care practices and their role in assertiveness. Self-care is often touted as a buzzword, but its significance in enhancing assertiveness cannot be overstated. I've discovered that taking care of my physical, emotional, and mental health directly impacts my ability to set boundaries and say no. When I'm well rested, nourished, and emotionally balanced, I feel more equipped to assert myself in challenging situations. One of my go-to self-care practices is establishing a consistent routine that includes exercise, healthy eating, and sufficient sleep. On days when I prioritize these elements, I notice a marked difference in my mood and energy levels. This boost in well-being translates to a greater sense of confidence in my interactions with others. I'm less likely to feel pressured into saying yes when my body and mind are in alignment. Mindfulness and meditation have also become vital components of my self-care regimen. Taking time to reflect and check in with myself allows me to understand my own needs and desires. This practice has made it easier to differentiate between genuine interest in helping others and the tendency to overextend myself. In moments of clarity, I find that saying no becomes a more straightforward decision, rooted in self-awareness rather than guilt. Engaging in activities that bring me joy is another essential aspect of self-care. Whether it's painting, hiking, or reading a good book, these moments of pleasure recharge my spirit and remind me of what truly matters to me. When I invest time in what brings me happiness, I'm more inclined to protect that joy by setting boundaries with others. It's a beautiful cycle. Self-care enhances my assertiveness, which in turn allows me to prioritize my well-being. Lastly, nurturing my emotional health is crucial for assertiveness. I've learned to process my feelings rather than suppress them. Journaling about my experiences and emotions helps me clarify my thoughts and understand my boundaries better. When I'm in tune with my emotions, I can communicate my needs more effectively, making it easier to say no without feeling overwhelmed by guilt or anxiety. 10. Common situations where saying no is difficult. There are countless scenarios where saying no can feel like an uphill battle. One common situation is in the workplace, where the pressure to conform can be intense. I've often found myself agreeing to take on additional projects or responsibilities, even when my plate is already full. The fear of disappointing my boss or colleagues can overshadow my own needs, leading to burnout and frustration. Another challenging situation arises within friendships. I cherish my friends, but there have been times when I've felt obligated to attend events or gatherings that I didn't truly want to go to. The guilt of saying no to a friend's invitation can be overwhelming, especially when I know how much they value my presence. However, I've learned that prioritizing my own well-being sometimes means declining invitations, even if it feels uncomfortable. Family dynamics can also complicate the ability to say no. I've experienced moments when family members expect certain favors or assistance, and the thought of refusing can create tension. The desire to maintain harmony often clashes with my need to set boundaries, leading to internal conflict. Recognizing that it's okay to prioritize my own needs has been a crucial step in navigating these family expectations. Social gatherings present another hurdle. The pressure to engage in conversations or activities that don't interest me can make it hard to assert my preferences. I found myself going along with the group rather than voicing my true feelings. This not only leads to resentment but also diminishes my enjoyment of social interactions. Learning to express my preferences has become a valuable skill in these situations. Lastly, volunteer situations can pose their own challenges. I genuinely want to help, but I've learned the hard way that overcommitting can lead to feelings of resentment. It's essential to recognize my limits and understand that saying no to one opportunity doesn't mean I'm abandoning my values. Embracing this mindset has allowed me to engage in community service in a more fulfilling and sustainable way. 11. Strategies for dealing with guilt after declining a request. Experiencing guilt after saying no is a common struggle, and I've certainly faced it numerous times. One effective strategy I've found is to remind myself of the reasons behind my decision. When I say no, it's usually because I'm prioritizing my own needs or well-being. Reflecting on these reasons helps me reframe my guilt into a positive affirmation of self-care. Another helpful tactic is to practice self-compassion. I've learned to treat myself with the same kindness I would offer a friend in a similar situation. Instead of dwelling on feelings of guilt, I remind myself that it's perfectly acceptable to set boundaries. Embracing this perspective has made it easier to navigate the emotional aftermath of saying no. Engaging in positive self-talk is another powerful tool. When guilt creeps in, I consciously challenge those negative thoughts. Instead of thinking, "I've let them down," I remind myself, "I'm taking care of myself and that's important." This shift in mindset not only alleviates guilt but also reinforces my commitment to self-advocacy. I've also found it helpful to communicate openly with those I decline. When I express my reasons for saying no, it often alleviates my guilt. Most. The role of empathy in communicating a no. When I think about saying no, one of the first things that comes to mind is the role of empathy. It's easy to get caught up in our own feelings of guilt or fear of disappointing others. However, it's crucial to remember that empathy is a two-way street. When I say no, I'm not just considering my feelings, I'm also thinking about the other person's perspective. Understanding their needs and emotions can help me frame my response in a way that feels respectful and kind. Empathy allows me to recognize that the person making a request may genuinely need help or support. It helps me to communicate my decision without dismissing their feelings. For instance, when a friend asks for a favor and I can't accommodate them, I try to acknowledge their need while also being honest about my limitations. I understand this is important to you and I wish I could help, but I have to prioritize my own commitments right now. This way, I'm validating their feelings but still standing firm in my decision. Moreover, empathy enables me to express my no with sensitivity. Instead of a cold refusal, I can communicate my boundaries in a way that maintains our relationship. I often find that when I approach the conversation with empathy, the other person is more likely to understand and accept my decision without resentment. Empathy humanizes the interaction, allowing both of us to feel heard and respected, even when the answer is a firm no. Another aspect to consider is that showing empathy also models healthy communication for others. When I communicate my boundaries with empathy, it encourages those around me to engage in similar behavior. They see that saying no doesn't have to be a harsh or selfish act. Rather, it can be a thoughtful response that considers the needs of everyone involved. As I practice this, I notice that my relationships tend to become more open and understanding, fostering a culture where we all feel safe to express our limits. Finally, I remind myself that empathy doesn't mean I have to compromise my own needs. It's about finding a balance, being kind and understanding while still honoring my own boundaries. By cultivating empathy in my interactions, I can confidently say no without feeling guilty or selfish. It's a powerful tool that transforms what could be a difficult conversation into an opportunity for connection and mutual respect. Using body language to reinforce your message. Body language is a fascinating element of communication, especially when it comes to conveying a no. I've learned that my nonverbal cues can significantly impact how my message is received. When I say no, my body should align with my words to reinforce my stance. If I say no, but my arms are crossed or I'm avoiding eye contact, it sends mixed signals. It's essential for me to be aware of my posture, facial expressions, and gestures. For instance, maintaining an open posture while delivering my no can help convey confidence. I make an effort to face the person directly, maintaining a relaxed yet assertive demeanor. A gentle smile can soften the refusal, showing that my intent is not to hurt but to communicate my boundaries. This balance of assertiveness and warmth can be tricky, but it's worth practicing. I want the other person to feel that I care, even when the answer isn't what they hoped for. Another technique I've found useful is mirroring the other person's energy. If they're calm and composed, I strive to match that tone. If they're more animated or emotional, I maintain a steady presence. This doesn't mean I should change my answer, but rather that I can show understanding of their emotional state while standing firm in my position. It's about creating a supportive atmosphere for the conversation, which can make it easier for both of us. I also pay attention to my eye contact. Making eye contact while saying no helps to reinforce my sincerity. It shows that I'm engaged and serious about my decision. However, I've learned that overly intense eye contact can come off as confrontational, so I aim for a balanced approach. A gentle gaze can express empathy while still affirming my boundaries. Finally, I remind myself that body language is not just about how I present myself. It's also about reading the other person's cues. If they seem distressed or upset, I might adjust my approach to offer more reassurance. By being attuned to both my own body language and theirs, I can navigate the conversation more effectively and ensure that my no is communicated clearly and compassionately. The importance of self-awareness and reflection. Self-awareness plays a crucial role in my ability to say no effectively. Before I can communicate my boundaries, I need to understand my own needs, values, and limitations. This process of self-reflection allows me to recognize when I truly want to say no versus when I might be saying it out of fear or guilt. By checking in with myself regularly, I can identify patterns and triggers that make it challenging for me to assert my needs. For example, I've realized that I often struggle to say no when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed. In these moments, it's easy to agree to requests just to avoid confrontation or to please others. Through self-reflection, I've learned to pause and assess my emotional state before responding to requests. This has helped me develop a clearer understanding of what I can realistically commit to without compromising my well-being. I also find that journaling can be an effective tool for enhancing my self-awareness. When I take time to write about my experiences and feelings related to saying no, I can identify recurring themes. This practice helps me clarify my priorities and recognize the importance of my boundaries. It's a way for me to articulate my thoughts and feelings, making it easier to communicate them when the time comes. Moreover, engaging in mindfulness practices has improved my self-awareness. Mindfulness encourages me to be present in the moment and attuned to my feelings. When I'm more in touch with my emotions, I can better gauge when I need to assert my boundaries. This awareness helps me feel more confident when I ultimately decide to say no, as I know I'm acting from a place of clarity rather than impulse. Finally, I've learned that self-awareness fosters resilience. When I understand my values and priorities, it becomes easier to stand firm in my decisions, even when faced with pressure or criticism. I recognize that saying no is not just about denying a request, it's about affirming my commitment to myself. This mindset shift not only supports my ability to communicate effectively but also contributes to my overall sense of empowerment and well-being. The positive impact of saying no on mental health and well-being. Saying no is often viewed as a negative act, but it can have a profoundly positive impact on my mental health and overall well-being. When I assert my boundaries and decline requests that don't align with my priorities, I create space for activities and relationships that genuinely nourish me. This shift can lead to increased satisfaction in my daily life and a stronger sense of self. One of the most significant benefits I've experienced is a reduction in stress and anxiety. When I consistently say yes to obligations that drain my energy, I often feel overwhelmed and resentful. However, when I practice saying no, I protect my time and energy, allowing me to focus on what truly matters to me. This sense of control over my choices has helped me cultivate a more balanced and fulfilling life. Additionally, saying no supports my emotional well-being by fostering healthier relationships. When I'm honest about my limitations, I set an example for others to follow. This honesty creates an environment where mutual respect thrives, and people feel more comfortable expressing their own boundaries. I've noticed that my relationships have become more authentic and supportive as I embrace my right to say no. Moreover, saying no has encouraged me to prioritize self-care. It's a reminder that I deserve to invest time in activities that recharge and rejuvenate me. Whether it's spending time with loved ones, engaging in hobbies, or simply resting, I've learned that prioritizing my own well-being is not selfish, it's essential. This commitment to self-care has positively influenced my mental health, allowing me to approach life with greater energy and enthusiasm. Finally, I found that saying no contributes to a greater sense of self-respect. When I honor my needs and limitations, I reinforce my self-worth. I'm no longer tethered to the expectation of pleasing others at the expense of my own happiness. This empowerment has a ripple effect on every aspect of my life, fostering a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Saying no has become a powerful affirmation of my values, leading to a healthier, more fulfilling existence. As we wrap up today's exploration of saying no without guilt, let's reflect on the power of this simple word. Remember, every time you say no, you're actually saying yes to your own values, your time, and your peace of mind. Think about it. How often have you felt overwhelmed because you didn't set those boundaries? Now, I want you to visualize a moment this week where you can practice this. What's one commitment you can decline that will free up space for what truly matters to you? Maybe it's a project at work, a social obligation, or even a favor for a friend. And here's a challenge. When you do say no, I want you to embrace it. Feel the liberation that comes with it. Share your experiences in the comments below. How did it feel? Did you notice a shift in your mindset? Remember, saying no is an essential skill in your journey toward a more intentional life. So, as you go about your day, keep this in mind. Every no is a step towards your authentic self. Are you ready to reclaim your time? Let's keep this conversation going.